Think about how many headlines you see every single day. You scroll through endless feeds. You catch news alerts on your phone. You overhear snippets of podcasts. Each one feels like a little piece of the puzzle, right? A tiny fragment of a much bigger picture. But what if all those scattered pieces of knowledge aren't actually making you more informed? What if they're secretly building a distorted reality around you, brick by brick, and you don't even see it happening? This isn't about fake news. This is about how real facts, seen in isolation, can be more dangerous than outright lies. It's the great paradox of our time. We have more information at our fingertips than ever, but our understanding of the world might be more broken than ever. We're drowning in a flood of facts, and it's creating a drought of wisdom. The illusion of being informed. Let's call this phenomenon fragmented knowledge. It's when you have isolated bits of information but no real connected understanding of how they fit together. Imagine you're trying to build a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, except you don't have the box with the picture on it. You're just being handed random pieces. Here's a piece of blue sky. Here's one with a bit of red brick. And here's a patch of green grass. You have facts, sure. The piece is blue. The brick is red. But do you have knowledge? Do you know if you're building a picture of a quiet countryside cottage or a chaotic city street? Without that connecting context, without the framework that links these pieces, you don't have knowledge. You just have a pile of fragments. For centuries, philosophers have argued that knowledge isn't just believing something that happens to be true. You need to have good reasons, a solid structure of evidence that supports it. A headline isn't a structure. A tweet isn't context. When we consume information in these tiny, bite-sized bursts, we're collecting puzzle pieces, but we're never actually seeing the picture on the box. We feel like we know what's going on, but that feeling is an illusion, built on a foundation of sand. This way of learning has become a defining part of modern life. We're constantly multitasking, jumping between apps, emails, and conversations. Our attention is just as fragmented as the information we consume. It becomes a cycle. The way we live reinforces the way we learn, and the way we learn reinforces the way we see the world. The architects of your distorted reality. So, if our reality is being twisted, who's doing the twisting? It's not some shadowy group plotting in a boardroom. The culprits are much closer to home. They're the biases baked into our own minds and the digital world we live in. The first architect is simply information overload. The amount of data we're expected to process every day is way more than our brains are built for. And while this isn't a totally new problem, the printing press caused a similar panic centuries ago. The internet has cranked up the volume to an unbelievable level. When you're swamped with data, your ability to think deeply just plummets. You can't process everything, so you start to skim. You grab onto the easiest, most emotionally charged fragments you can find. This overload makes us anxious and less capable of making good judgments. The second architect is our own set of wide cognitive biases. Think of these as mental shortcuts our brains use so we don't have to analyze every little thing from scratch. The problem is, in our modern world, these shortcuts often lead us straight down the wrong path. The most famous one is confirmation bias. This is our natural tendency to look for, believe, and remember information that already fits with what we think. Social media algorithms have become masters at exploiting this. They see what you like, what you agree with, and they build a personalized information bubble around you, feeding you an endless diet of fragments that just confirm what you already believe. It creates an echo chamber where your ideas are never challenged, only shouted back at you louder. Then you've got the canon availability heuristic. Basically, our brains judge how likely something is not based on statistics, but on how easily we can remember an example of it. Because the news cycle loves dramatic, sensational, and often negative stories, our perception of the world gets warped. We might start to overestimate the danger of a shark attack or a plane crash simply because we've seen a dozen headlines about it that day. The most available information in our mind shapes our reality, even if it's a complete statistical outlier. The final architect is the medium itself. The way we get information, in short, punchy headlines, 280-character posts, and 30-second videos, forces complex issues to become overly simple. Nuance is always the first thing to go. A provocative headline is engineered to get a click, not to explain a complex truth. Research even shows that just reading headlines, without ever clicking the article, can shape our emotions and our view of events. These three forces, the overload, our biases, and the media we use, all work together. They take individual, factual fragments and weave them into a story that feels true and complete, but is actually a personalized, simplified, and often distorted caricature of the real world. The real-world cost of fragmented knowing. This isn't just some abstract thought experiment. Living in a world built from fragments has real, serious consequences for our lives and for society. First, it cripples our decision-making. When we make big choices about our health, our finances, or our careers based on an isolated headline or a viral post, we're flying blind. It can lead to impulsive decisions or the exact opposite, analysis paralysis, where the constant stream of conflicting fragments leaves you so overwhelmed you can't make a choice at all. You end up trapped in a cycle of second-guessing and anxiety because you just don't have the integrated knowledge to feel confident. Second, it destroys our social cohesion. When we're all living in our own personalized realities, curated by algorithms to tell us we're right, empathy becomes nearly impossible. How can you understand someone with a different perspective when you're not even seeing the same set of facts? This is what fuels polarization. Complex social issues that need teamwork and deep understanding get boiled down to simplistic black and white fights. You can't have a meaningful debate when there's no shared reality to stand on. Finally, it stunts our own intellectual growth. Real learning isn't about collecting facts, it's about connecting them. It's the process of building a strong mental framework where new information has a place to go. Fragmented learning stops this from happening. It encourages you to passively absorb data instead of actively building knowledge. We risk becoming trivia champions who can recite facts but can't solve complex problems or come up with new ideas. We know a lot of what, but we're forgetting how to ask why and how. If any of this is hitting home for you, if you've ever felt that frustration of being overwhelmed by information, but underwhelmed by your own understanding, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because we're going to spend the rest of this video talking about what you can actually do to fight back and reclaim your reality. Reclaiming your reality, from fragments to frameworks. Okay, so the situation might sound a little grim, but we are not powerless here. We can make a conscious choice to change how we consume and think about information. The goal is to go from being a passive collector of fragments to an active builder of knowledge. Here are 3 strategies to get you started. First, become an active integrator, not a passive collector. This is the biggest mindset shift. Stop treating your brain like a bucket you just pour facts into. Start treating it like a loom for weaving those facts together. Make it a habit to connect new information to what you already know. When you see a headline, don't just swallow it whole. Ask questions. Who's the source? What's their angle? How does this connect to that story from last week? What are they leaving out? Then, take some time to process what you've learned. Try to explain it to a friend or write it down. The simple act of articulating an idea forces you to organize all those random fragments into something that makes sense. Second, diversify your information diet and build scaffolding. You have to intentionally break out of your echo chamber. Make a real effort to seek out sources and thinkers that challenge your views. Follow people you disagree with. Read publications from different sides of the political spectrum. The goal isn't just to consume more, but to organize it. As you learn, build a mental scaffold. Does this new piece of information relate to economics? To psychology? To history? When you give new fragments a place to land, you prevent them from just becoming more mental clutter. Third, practice informational mindfulness and master the pause. In a world that demands an instant reaction, your greatest power is the pause. Before you share, before you react, before you form an opinion, just stop. Give yourself a second to think. This means taking control of your digital world. Turn off all those useless notifications. Set specific times to check news and social media, instead of letting them interrupt your entire day. You want to move from a state of constant reactive information snacking to a few intentional, focused information meals. This builds the mental discipline you need to engage with ideas deeply, instead of just letting them wash over you. Conclusion. For a long time, we've bought into the idea that more information is always a good thing, but we are now living with the fallout from that belief. We're drowning in fragments of knowing, and it's quietly warping our reality, weakening our decisions, and pulling us apart. The way forward isn't to unplug from the world, but to become the master of your information, not its servant. It's about choosing to seek context over clicks, understanding over updates, and wisdom over a warehouse of disconnected facts. It means moving beyond just collecting information and embracing the art of connection, integration, and critical thinking. The challenge for all of us is to look at our own habits and ask a tough question. Am I building a clear picture of the world? Or am I just collecting puzzle pieces? Your reality is being built, one fragment at a time. The only real question is whether you'll be the one to build it. If this video gave you a new way to think about how you engage with the world, please share it with someone who might need to see it. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. What's one strategy you use to fight back against information overload? Thanks for watching.